Hello, it's Oren Prunken, and I'm going to talk today about how you can convince people on the benefit of your product or service. I want to give you an example. So, I'm going to tell you that fasting is amazing for fat loss. Now, that statement alone, I want you to consider how convincing that was for you. Are you going to go out and change your diet to from whatever you're doing to fasting? Like, I really want you to have a think about that, and as you're listening to this, answer that in your own head. I'll give you just a few seconds to think about that. Fasting is amazing for fat loss. Are you going to go out today and be honest and change your eating routines? So I want to give you another way of looking at this. So when I was a kid in primary school, I used to get teased and people used to say, "Hey Twiggy, why don't you go eat some food?" And that statement is pretty preposterous when you think about how much food I did actually go and eat, and I would be eating all the time. I even remember, having breakfast and then not even getting to recess, and I would be so hungry that I had a stomach ache, and I was almost in tears, bent over in fetal position because I was so hungry. I would just eat all the time in between, the regimented recess and lunch, and then I'd get home from school and I'd eat, and then I'd eat dinner, and then I'd eat a snack. I just ate so much food and I was still really hungry, but I was also really skinny, and it was just super frustrating because people would be like, "Hey Twiggy, your lanky ass should go eat some food." So it's like super frustrating for me, right? And this has kind of been throughout my life. I've always kind of been like skinny, fat, ectomorph, really lanky, tall limbs, long limbs. And I went to Las Vegas in 2014, and I was in the hotel swimming pool, and I took my shirt off with my bathers, and I was not very happy or proud of the way I looked. And there wasn't really a specific thing that happened. It was just taking off my shirt there. Nothing like traumatic was said or anything like that. It's just I had a feeling that I just wasn't proud of my body. So I followed a lot of what is called bro science, and you've definitely heard it. It's like eat 6 meals a day. It's have protein shakes all the time. You need to eat a clean diet. You need to eat every 3 hours, and all this kind of nonsense. And to tell you the truth, I actually followed a lot of it and believed a lot of it. And sure, I did get results. Like I put on 10 kilos, and probably half of that was fat. So I got also fat, but I also put on muscle. And kind of the context behind why I wanted to do that was, I'm getting a bit older now, and I play a lot of sport, particularly ice hockey, and I do not have the same stamina and fitness as I did when I was younger. So there was that motivation for me to get much stronger. But I did get fat, and it was I believe from memory, 2015, the New Year's, I decided to, I went from the complete opposite. I wasn't proud of taking my shirt off at Vegas, but I had then got fat, so I also wasn't that proud of where I had got to. So it was that New Year's, I believe it was 2015, I decided that I would actually go and do a bit of research looking into the scientific papers and journals about what actually works within nutrition. And I normally do, obsess about things and go and get the ADD on and look at it quite in depth. And I came across the concept of fasting, and particularly intermittent fasting, and I followed everything that was the protocols that were being given to me from these journals. And it said literally the opposite to everything that bro science said. Bro science said you should be eating every 3 hours. Intermittent fasting says you better not eat more than 8, and in an 8-hour period, more like 5 hours is pretty good. The bro science says you should be eating 6 meals a day. Fasting's like you should eat 2 meals a day. Bro science says you should be having protein shakes, and intermittent fasting says, you can just eat whatever you want as long as you are in a calorie deficit. And that includes you can go out and eat chips and chocolate and cheese, and it just doesn't matter. It doesn't even need to be clean. So I followed the protocol of intermittent fasting, and I maintained all of the muscle mass that I had put on. I had increased the muscle mass, I increased a strength, which is more important, and I shredded off all of the fat. And I can maintain this year round, 24/7, 365. You don't believe me? Like, this is not photoshopped, right? Like, that is like my natural state, day in, day out, only because of intermittent fasting. Yes, it does shred fat super fast, more faster than anything that I've come across. So, intermittent fasting has been really life-changing for me in terms of health and physical appearance. But there are quite a few other different side effects, not just that physical appearance. My concentration, my energy, my mood is, 10x what it used to be when I'm fasting. Fasting has also been correlated to, cancer reduction and reduction in diabetes and heart conditions. All of these major health risks that humans have can be correlated back to poor diets, and fasting can help reset a lot of the hormones and the damage that's been done. So there's tons of different side effects, not just losing fat. So it's been life-changing. I'm never going to change this again. So based on that story that I've told you, it's a real story. This is the story of me and fasting. How does that change your view and what you may do around your eating habits? And compare that. So, I want you to have a think. Would you change your eating habits to fasting based on that, compared to me just saying, fasting is really great for fat loss? So, I really want you to get this, really feel it, which one of those was more compelling for you. And I suspect the last one was, and I suspect a lot of you are really considering going and changing your eating habits because of what I just did. And the difference was, and it comes down to a very famous sales quote, which is stories sell and facts tell. Facts just tell some information, but stories are what sell. And, stories have been the factor that have changed the way information has been passed down through the generation. All good stories follow a very similar structure, and it always starts out with someone's desire for change, and then they are doing something and they hit a wall and it's just not working, and they go out and decide to make a plan to change it. And on that change, they have a journey. It's not always smooth sailing, sometimes it is. But unless it's a tragedy, most great stories finish off with a good ending. The protagonist gets what they usually want, unless it's obviously a tragedy. So I want you to think about how you are delivering the benefits. You can do it through a statement, just telling facts, or you can do it through story, and one, in my experience, is far more powerful than the other. So when you're going out to try to sell something, particularly the benefits of what that is, I want you to think about stories and story structures and how you can tell it through a story. Like I always say, I'd love you to let me know how you go with this, as I'm very interested in your results. And until we talk next time, I hope you have an awesome day. Goodbye. Thanks for listening. And if you like what was on here and want more, please go to orenprunken.com.